My name is Bishop Mususu. I'm the overseer or the presiding bishop of the Evangelical Church in Zambia, which is an SIM-related church, and currently I also share the EFZ. I served there for 8 years as executive director. Now I am back and serving as the overseer of the Evangelical Church. Coming to the question of Zambia, which was declared a Christian nation by His Excellency then, Dr. Frederick Chiluba, soon after he got into office. With regard to the benefits that, or the effects that it has on the church, I think we can say genuinely that there have been some merits and benefits that the church has seen, changes that could be attributed to the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation. But I'm also quick to point out that there are other mitigating factors that one begins to wonder whether everything should actually be the result of the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation. For example, we have seen a number of churches springing up, and many compounds have gone with a number of churches that have come out. That in itself is a good sign. But how much weight do we put on the declaration, and how much of that is the result of Zambia being declared a Christian nation? Because in the same breath, we have had a lot of splits in the churches. We have had people that have been disadvantaged because they lost their employment due to privatization. And the only option they would find is to do church business. Now, coupled with a lot of other factors, including economic challenges, one would be very careful to attribute the number of churches that have come up to just the result being of the declaration. Maybe you'd even go venture into some other activities, positive activities, like we have radio stations, we have TV stations that have opened up. But it is also safe to say that when we ask and interrogate that question, is it the result just primarily because of the declaration of Christian nation? How would you answer other countries that have not declared themselves as Christian nations, and they have radio stations? In fact, they have more TV stations, they have more radio stations than we do have. So I think it is very, very good for us to be analytical and be able to attribute the gains and the benefits of the Christian nation declaration appropriately, and not just exaggerate the benefits. As we see in the same vein of the churches springing up, we also are faced with the challenge of other cults that have come up because of the religious freedom and the freedom of worship. We have seen the springing up of particularly the Muslim, the Islamic religion, and many others. Is it because of the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation? Not really. But maybe I think what needs to be interrogated further is the question of what infringement or what disadvantages are there for those who are not Christians per se. The declaration does not forbid anyone from practicing their freedom of worship in any way. We have had people that have come to Zambia that were not even there before. But I think it is suffice to say that we as a Christian body are encouraged that publicity and freedom of people declaring themselves Christian, and sometimes even challenging some non-Christian practices, like people standing up against abortion and homosexuality and stuff like that. We're not ashamed to do that. And so those are merits. But in general terms, I think we would be very careful so that we do not give credit all the things that have happened to just the fact that Zambia is declared a Christian nation. I must say that I came across a very interesting article that even before Dr. Chiluba declared Zambia a Christian nation, Dr. Kaunda, in the second year of celebrating independence, had written a letter in which he publicly said, we are a Christian nation. So, is it then or now? For me, I think that what matters if we are talking about the merits of the Christian nation declaration, it's the real practice. When Christians are able to live and translate that Christian declaration into practical terms, less corruption, less murders, less immorality, less of witchcraft, and all the other vices that are pointing to the opposite of a Christian nation, if those are minimized, and they can only be minimized not by declaration, they can be minimized by the change of life, the change of lifestyle. Those of us that call ourselves Christian get to work and begin to practice Christian lifestyles. And I think these changes, if they affected individual Christians, then we will see the effect of the declaration, even in terms of reducing the effects of negative vices, such as I've already alluded to, corrupt practices in our offices. Because sometimes you wonder, there are many people that carry Bibles on Sundays and they visit our churches and they are there. And yet these same Christians, so to speak, they're the ones that are on Monday getting into offices as police officers, as nurses, as teachers, and name them. And they are the ones that are practicing the vices that you would not accept as a Christian nation, or Christians practicing such kind of things. So, in a nutshell, I would be very, very careful to say that the springing up and the mushrooming of cults, the other religious grouping, it is not just because Zambia is declared a Christian nation. Just in the same manner, I would say that even then, when we set up churches, how much of that is given, God ordained and God instructed, rather than people just wanting to find some way of living, and people set up churches. And how much of it is the result of maybe power struggle? Someone wants to set up his own so that he becomes a bishop and overseer. And how much of that is the result of people in their own selfish motives to want to gain through the manipulation of the gospel? I wouldn't be the judge, but what my take is that I look at the time when Zambia, before we were declared a Christian nation, the benefits and the merits that were there, and in all honesty, look at what is happening. I think that not much has changed. There are things that we could say, yes, these were happening, and even the freedom of worship was happening before, just in the same manner that it is happening today. But at the same time, I would not be ignoring some of the difficulties that we have found even in practicing our faith. Some of the people may not be so concerned about this, but I think it is important for us to realize as a church that practicing Christianity for what it is worth would, translated in human terms, in practical terms, the reduction of orphans and vulnerable children on our streets. there's been an increase of that. There's been a lot of vices actually being done by gangs and small young people that are grouping themselves in taking strong drinks and even drugs. In spite of us being declared a Christian nation, these things are happening. My prayer is that the church practicing their Christianity, or the individual Zambians practicing their Christianity, it will translate in sheltering these vulnerable children. It will translate in taking care of the orphans. In fact, James says that true religion is that which takes care of orphans and widows. And if that is the truth, then the reality is that we should be seeing more orphans and children that are vulnerable being taken in by the church, being fed by the church, being sent to school by the church, and being assisted in whatever form by the church. For me, this is the challenge that we face. It is not enough for us to stand up in the mountaintops and declare ourselves a Christian nation when our actions and our practice is on the other side. So it is important for us to analyze the situation and be able to come to terms with that. So, in conclusion, I would want to say the Christian declaration, in my view, has brought about some confidence in church leaders to stand up and boldly talk about their faith. It has also created a platform where you can confront issues that are not Christian per se. But at the same time, we need to be very careful that not everything has fallen in the steps of what we have declared ourselves to be. And I think those are the things that I would want us to begin to respond to. And those are the things that we need practically to be addressing ourselves with. Because if you are just declaring by word of mouth that you are a Christian and neglect the duties of a Christian, and that is evangelizing the lost, including some of those who are coming in from other countries where Christianity is not practiced. They've come here to do businesses and economic gains. Wouldn't it be lovely that if they came to Zambia, which is a Christian nation, they met the Lord and we sent them with the gospel, they go back to their countries as missionaries? I think that would be a more meaningful way of declaring ourselves as a Christian. But as it stands at the present moment, I think there are merits and demerits, and I think the embodiment in a summary would be that there are some gains that we have gotten, but I don't think that they account for everything that has happened in our country.
Yes,